For the last few weeks we've been talking about pursuing love, and this love that St. Paul talked about in his letter to the Corinthians a few weeks ago about love is patient, love is kind. This agape love for someone even when they are undesirable. That Peter and the fishermen were fishing in the shallow water. They weren't putting out into the deep, taking a risk, going outside of their comfort zone, kind of going against the grain. And so this week I want to talk about, okay, once we begin to overcome that, we don't want to objectify people anymore. We want to treat them as subjects who are made in the image and likeness of God, created for their own sake. How do we go beyond that? Again, last week I said there's three ways people deal with this. They either don't deal with it, and they just continue in their sinful lifestyle until one day they wake up. Or they are continent or chaste, but they're white-knuckling. And that's one way, we transition from the state that we're in to a detox, to loving God. But it shouldn't be a permanent state. In other words, yes, we have to struggle, and we're going to be white-knuckling in a little bit, but there comes a point where we emerge from that in a healthy relationship. And then finally, we do things not because they're against the commandments or not because, even they're wrong or they're not good for us. We do it out of a love for God. And we see it as something we do for the beloved. I mean, think about, even for Valentine's Day, for your significant other, if you did something for them, did you do it for them because you were afraid that if you didn't, you would be murdered in your sleep? Or there would be some kind of recompense for that? Or was it, no, I'm doing this because I love this person. And that's why I'm doing it, even if there's nothing in return. This is the love that we're pursuing here. And so, if we begin to make that transition, we are going to go through a bit of detox. And there's a few ways we do this. I remember there was a nun when I was in high school, and we might do something wrong, you're chewing gum in class, or you're passing notes. We used to pass notes back then, by the way. You pass notes, or you didn't do your homework, or whatever else. And she would catch you, and you'd say, I'm sorry, sister. And she would say, you're not sorry, you're just sorry you got caught. And I thought that was pretty sarcastic. But it was right. She was absolutely right. We weren't sorry because we're doing the same thing again and again. We were sorry because we got caught, because then you get detention or whatever else. That's the difference I want to talk about today. Because there's remorse, and then there's repentance. And sometimes we treat them synonymously, or we get them confused. Remorse is, I'm sorry because I got caught. I'm sorry I drank so much because I lost a day the next day because I was throwing up. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that, I said that bad thing about you because I got caught in saying it about you. Remorse is being sorry, but it's not enough sorry to change it. Remorse is kind of focusing on the object or the action, but not what motivated it or the lifestyle. Repentance is different. Repentance, metanoia, in Greek, literally means a turning of the mind. And the mind is everything. So if I'm going to experience metanoia, or repentance, it's a turning of the whole self. In other words, it's not enough to focus on this one behavior and changing this one behavior. I have to change what is in me that makes me do those things. And that's a change in lifestyle, and that's really difficult. And you can't do that just because it's uncomfortable. We do that usually out of a love for someone, someone else, or the beloved. That's what we do. The Beatitudes today, and this is in Luke's Gospel. You notice he's not up on a mount. This isn't the Sermon on the Mount. This is kind of the Sermon on the flat plain. And he has four of these Beatitudes. The Beatitudes were called Macarisms, because in Greek they all start out Makarioi. Makarioi means blessed or happy. But in ancient times, most Makarioi, or these Macarisms, really kind of made sense. Blessed are you because you have children. Blessed are you because we're at peace. Blessed are you because the crops came in. Blessed are you because you're rich. You thought, yeah, I would be happy or blessed with those things. Jesus is saying, blessed are you when you're hungry. Blessed are you when you're sorrowful. Blessed are you when you're, meek or have to be humbled. Blessed are you when you're persecuted. And that you can imagine these people, these thousands of people on the plane listening to this and thinking, what is he saying? Those aren't the normal macroisms we're used to. And he goes on to say the woes. Blessed are you when you're fed. Blessed are you when you're rich. It just turns everything on its head. And what we have to understand is these things are happening in two different places at two different times. Jesus says, blessed are you when you suffer here. Because once you are in the next life, you will suffer no more. He's talking about sacrificial living, which is out of love. That's what he's talking about. Even the prophet, kind of talks about this. Blessed are you who, are doing what you're supposed to be doing instead of going for the instant, gratification or whatever else. You're not being a false prophet. And that's what we're called to do. If I'm stuck in a cycle of remorse, then yeah, I feel bad today because that happened yesterday. But 2 or 3 days from now, I'm thinking, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. And then 5 days from now, I'm ready to do it again. We get stuck in this cycle. But if we emerge from that and we decide I'm going to change my whole self, that means a new existence. It means if I'm struggling with an addiction to something, I can't keep the same lifestyle I once had. It means if I'm in with a certain group of people and they make me gossip, they draw me into that, every time I'm in there, I fall into this sin, and I might have to distance myself in a certain way from it. The ancient sailors would say, in Greek it comes out, "Pelekitse to sklinga," cut the rope. In marine terms, they would say you would slide your cable or you would cut your cable. Sliding your cable means lifting anchor and moving on. Cut your cable, many pirates that would attack ships would just cut the cable. They would cut off your anchor so that you were adrift forever. You could never put down anchor and stay still. You were always adrift. And so when I say about cutting the rope, this pelekitse, it means essentially if we are sorry for something that we're doing and we want to change, we can't simply slip our cable. We can't simply lift anchor and move somewhere else because we're taking that stuff with us. We need to cut the rope. Those things that are holding us back, we need to cut that off and begin to move in a different direction. That's the only way we can do it. 3 words. Sometimes these 3-word phrases are the hardest to say. I am sorry. I forgive you. I love you. I am sorry. That's the first one. Because if we are truly sorry, then we're talking about repentance, not simply remorse. I'm sorry that hurt you. And then we might do something the next day to hurt it again. We have to change the whole person. I forgive you. How often we hold on to stuff for years and years, so much so that the other person might not even remember it. But to be able to say, I forgive you, even if we can't face them, even if they're not around, to just be able to vocally say that and live in a way that reflects that I do forgive you. I'm not holding on to this grudge. It's in the past. A possibility of a new existence. And then finally, I love you. What happens after comfort settles in? We might end a phone call. Okay, I love you. I love you too. I love you. I love you too. It's something we throw away. It's a throwaway line. But the love we're talking about means the ability to give ourselves to another. It means sacrifice. And I get it too. I know, whenever I get off the phone with my mom, it's automatic. And I have no doubt that she loves me. But it's something to really think about. How do we extend that to someone without it sounding like a throwaway love? This is what metanoia looks like. True repentance. So in the Catholic faith, when we talk about reconciliation, and by the way, time for a plug, I'm hearing confessions again in the LC on Monday from 11 to 1. When we talk about reconciliation, that is supposed to be a metanoia. We're supposed to leave that stuff there and then go live our life. If we can't leave that stuff there, in other words, if I am not sorry, or or I'm going to go right back to the same thing tomorrow, and that is my intent, then you can't be forgiven. That's not confession. That might be getting something off your chest, but it's not sacrament. That we have to be able to go into the sacrament and say, I am sorry for my sin. Even if I'm not sure I agree whether it's a sin or not, I can at least be sorry that I'm hurting God. That I am going to try very hard not to do it again. It's the difference between trying hard not to do it again and having every intention to do it again. That's a metanoia. So a little homework, something to think about in our analyzing metanoia and remorse. If you make a list, and take a piece of paper and make a list of all the things that are going well for you right now. These are things that are life-giving. These are things that build us up. They make us better people. They make us more loving and lovable. They bring us closer to God. Make a list of all those things. And then on the back of that piece of paper, make a list of all the things that are not good. The things that we are doing or not doing that are pulling us down, drawing us away from God and others. That when we look at ourselves, they're the things that we do not like about ourselves. And it has least of all to do with how we appear. Because what will happen then if we can materialize this list and look at these things, then we can begin a metanoia. We can begin a turning of the mind. Instead of just putting out fires, trying to deal with all these things individually. A whole changing and shifting of the person. And then more and more things will begin to appear on the front of the page. Those things that are good for us. That help us to see other people as people. Help us to see and to love and to listen as God intended. And with more of those things going well for us, we won't have time really for the other side. The Lord doesn't want us to suffer in this life. But he knows that in order to be the people we're called to be, it will be uncomfortable. It's the path less taken. But perhaps we forget sometimes that beatitude doesn't mean seeing God clearly in this life. It means being with him in the next.